History is never short of dull-witted people. I think today's politicians prove that every day. However, in the quarters of time, history has shown us over and over that idiocy was not contained to one particular era. Take, for example, the king who sailed headlong into a typhoon because some genius convinced him he was immortal. Or the Roman troops who lost their lives to dehydration because they thought victory was more important than water. Even the supposedly smart ones weren't spared the occasional tomfoolery, like the Great Julius Caesar, who accidentally burned down a whole library because he lacked foresight. As dumb as these might sound, these events are firmly rooted in history, so prepare to be amazed at just how idiotic historical figures could be. Meanwhile, you can vote on the most stupid idea that sent you rolling on the floor.
Damn!
Just write the name of the idiot and let's see who carries the day. Ready? Let's go. We begin with the Roman troops, who forgot that the desert was a hot, arid, unforgiving land, and thus failed to prepare adequately. It was the Battle of Carrhae, fought between the Romans and the Parthians in 53 BCE near Mesopotamia, modern-day Haran, Turkey. Led by General Marcus Licinius Crassus, the Roman troops invaded the Parthians, intending to equal the victories of his counterparts, Pompey and Caesar. Crassus had the upper hand at the beginning of the battle, driving the Parthians toward the desert. Seeing that their might was dwindling and probably sensing that Crassus was dumb, because that is what I suspect, they hatched a simple but brilliant plan. The Parthians feigned defeat and pretended to run away into the desert. Crassus followed them like a brainless dog in heat who'd spotted a female across a busy street. With no sense of caution, the Romans headed into the desert, forgetting to carry enough water and supplies. Soon the troops became exhausted and dehydrated, and with no water to energize them, they lost the will to fight. The Parthians capitalized and had a field day, using their swift cavalry, archers, and, most importantly, water. In the process, the Parthians slaughtered 20,000 Roman troops and captured a further 10,000. The few remaining soldiers fled to Carrhae and then to Syria. Finally, Crassus himself was pinned down and slain, spelling Rome's doom. Now, if you thought heading into a desert with no water was the worst decision a seasoned army general could have taken, wait until you hear the genius who burnt boats close to a library. When Ptolemy II became the ruler of Egypt after Alexander the Great, he constructed this magnificent library in 3 BCE. It contained about 500,000 pieces of literature that covered every conceivable subject in ancient times. Sadly, this library was burned to ashes with no trace of its existence. Even sadder was how it happened. History suggests that the brilliant statesman and Roman army general, Julius Caesar, did the honors. His quest to conquer Egypt in 48 BCE was hindered by a large fleet of Egyptian boats in the port of Alexandria, near the library. Blinded by a fierce passion, or should I say fierce tomfoolery, he commanded the boats to be burned. Unfortunately, he lacked the foresight to see the harm the fire would cause to the library. So, the library and its literature got consumed in the infernal flames of Caesar's apparent ingenuity. Now, I'm curious to know what you would have done to get past the ships if you were in Julius Caesar's shoes. Tell me about it down in the comments section. Curiously now, Caesar isn't the only historical figure to lack vision. Another is Emperor Kublai Khan. For some context, Kublai Khan was the first Mongol leader to conquer and rule Yuan China, which is enormous, by the way. His military tactics and strategies were unmatched, as his troops conquered everything in their wake. China was a piece of cake, but Japan was a different ballgame altogether. Not because they were smarter, but because Kublai Khan literally lost his senses. It was typhoon season, and the winds were unforgiving. The Japanese knew this and never sailed during the season of typhoons, but Kublai Khan didn't care. He was obsessed with adding Japan to his list of conquered lands. He launched his first attack in 1274, but the typhoon stopped him, destroying his ships, soldiers, weapons, and equipment. Now, one wouldn't have thought that the brilliant military strategist wouldn't plan a campaign during typhoon season. Once bitten, twice shy, right? Well, apparently that adage wasn't in Kublai Khan's dictionary. In 1281, he commanded the Mongol soldiers to attack Japan during a typhoon called Kamikaze. a Japanese word that means divine wind. This time the winds caused more destruction than the previous attempt, sinking over 10,000 ships and slaying about 150,000 soldiers. This was the biggest casualty Kublai Khan had suffered since he started his campaign to conquer Asia. Only if he had a little patience and perhaps a bit more wisdom, he would have waited the season out and attacked when the coast was clear. Alas, his wits failed him, his spirit was broken, and his will to continue dissipated faster than the morning dew. After the failure of his 2 attempts, his reign declined, and Khan was finally overthrown by the Chinese. Kublai Khan may have been foolhardy, but his misadventures in Japan can in no way be compared to Nero's buffoonery. We all love to one day live in our dream houses. And Emperor Nero was no different. He had plans of living lavishly in a golden house situated in the heart of ancient Rome. His golden house would be the 7th wonder of the world, attracting all and sundry to gaze upon its magnificence and bask in its beauty. They would occupy any of the 300 rooms available and enjoy non-stop exhilarating entertainment during their stay. But there was a setback. Nero's dream house would be so costly that it would drain the coffers of the state, but he didn't give 2 hoots about that. After all, there was partying to be done, and he needed a dope crib. Oh, wait, that's Diddy. Sorry, wrong script. Nero did build his golden house, also called Domus Aurea, in the heart of ancient Rome to fulfill his ambitious dreams. His people suffered as there was little money to run the empire. The little money they had saved was so heavily taxed that it amounted to nothing. Nero had sacrificed the welfare of his people to satisfy his vain ambitions of living in a luxurious house. After he passed in AD 68, the palace grounds were covered with earth in an attempt to bury his legacy and the memory of the house. What a stupid venture. But do you know what was more stupid? A king banishing his skilled workers because he feared they'd cause social inequality. Yet, did I hear you shout, "What?" Yes, that was my initial reaction at first too when I read that. King Leotychides of Sparta banished skilled workers in 486 BCE for the ludicrous reason that they would instill an inferiority complex in the unskilled laborers. Now, if this isn't a classic example of cutting off your nose to spite your face, then I don't know what is. Needless to say, his ridiculous decision hindered the technological and artistic development of Sparta compared to the other Greek city-states. Sadly, when war broke out, the Spartans became sitting ducks, lacking the requisite technology to launch a powerful attack or a formidable defense. They were vanquished thanks to their king's shenanigans. One person's stupidity brought down a kingdom. But what happens if a whole island decides to be, let me just tell you what happened, then you can judge for yourself. Easter Island, famous for palms and other trees, 144 species of algae, and 111 species of tropical and pelagic fish. By the mid-17th century, it boasted 9,000 inhabitants and attracted tourists from various parts of the world. It was a beautiful haven for all kinds of animals, including pigs, chickens, and rats. Due to its rich forestation and conducive environment, the islanders called themselves Rapa Nui, meaning the navel of the earth. Sadly, this buoyant island that attracted foreigners became devastated. And no, it wasn't through a natural disaster. Rather, the inhabitants chopped down nearly all the trees and exported them to generate income to line their pockets. Years of deforestation led to environmental degradation, which eventually affected the population. By the end of the 18th century, the islanders could count between 2,000 and 3,000 inhabitants, all because some people got greedy and stupid. Now, just to be sure you're all paying attention, I've got a challenge for you. It's called Dogs or Cats. If you're a dog lover, hit subscribe. If you're a cat lover, hit like. And if you're interested, we'll do a special video on ancient pets just for you. Now then, back to history's most stupid. So, just when I thought no stupidity could shock me any further, along comes Emperor Qin Shi Huang. In 213 BCE, Qin Shi Huang, the first Chinese emperor, commanded that all philosophy and historical books be burned. To add insult to injury, he ordered many scholars to be burned alive. Their crime? Well, he didn't like the philosophies that they were teaching. Uh-oh, this is sounding a little bit like Germany in the 1930s. Before Qin Shi became the emperor, China was ruled by Confucius, who wrote many books. When the emperor ascended to the throne, he felt Confucianism was not the philosophy he wanted to adopt. He introduced his own philosophy and ordered all the schools to follow suit. Anyone who dared to challenge or criticize his philosophies, which were centered on legalism, would either be thrown in jail or forced into exile. Thankfully, his philosophers never outlived him, as his dynasty broke down when he passed away. I can imagine the ancient Chinese heaving a sigh of relief during his funeral and mumbling under their breath, "Good riddance to bad rubbish." The Chinese hated Qin Shi Huang, but the Celts loved their queen and would give their life for her because of her bravery and wisdom. Click here to discover the incredible story of Queen Boudica, and I'll see you there. And until next time, thanks ever so much for watching.